well. So I'll leave it there, and then I'll open the forum up to questions. And please, these are the election experts. You know, the Secretary of State is not only tasked with helping to run elections. We're in business services. That's the bulk of our employees are in the business services division. We're the public information directors of the state. We're the keepers of the state records. We're the keepers of the state archives. So there's a lot going on. So in our divisions, we have experts. And these are our two elections experts. And you have elections experts in your town. They know this system well. And so the questions may be fielded by any of us, depending on what that question is. All right, so we'll open it up. Yes, Senator.
3 points, because I hear it a lot out from constituents. Anything is only as good as its weakest point. And anything, no matter how good it is, always has a weakest point. And my concern and my constituent concerns, maybe we can clarify this and kind of get it understood a little bit better, is one, the mail ballots on the signatures. Previous year to the change, when we codified it after COVID, there were a process of 2 signatures, correct, on a mail ballot, and that got eliminated now.
Or a notary.
Or a notary. That has been eliminated, so the only way to follow any problems with that would be after they're being counted and having somebody to say, listen, I don't think this is right, and review them at that point, other than being at the Board of Canvassers. Where I vote is an extremely small town. I was born and basically raised in Forster. I think I know almost everybody there and their names and everything. So it's a little bit easier. But when you get into bigger districts such as Coventry and everything, you can't possibly know everybody. So it's more of a overlook on that. So that's the first one. The second one I think is we've seen in Connecticut, the mailbox drops. They're supposed to have a camera on them. I work for the town of Forster. There is only one in the town. Other bigger communities have multiple ones. I know the camera that I have and I have access to on my phone at any time, there's no standards on it. It's very bleak. You really can't make the person out. You really can't make the out. I think there should be standards on requiring certain types of cameras and clearancy on those boxes. And they should be reviewed, because just putting a camera up and saying they have a camera on them is one thing. I own a business. Some of my cameras, you couldn't tell if it's a trailer truck or a Volkswagen. So I think that is a point that we need to clarify and get a little bit better on. And the third is registration through the motor vehicle registry. It's an opt-out option on the registrations. When somebody goes to the motor vehicle registration, if I'm wrong, correct me, you are automatically registered to vote when you get your license or change your license. The question is, and I don't know what the answer is, how is your affiliation picked, or is it picked? If you opt out and you don't put nothing down, is it just brought in as an independent, or is a party picked? And who does that? Who has oversight to say that? You know what, I'm going to put them down as this. Those are my 3 points. I know there's a lot, but again, those are questions I personally have, and
Those are great questions.
feel for my constituents.
I'll do the initial response, and then I'll let the experts chime in. I think it's a great idea to have standards for the surveillance. So, you know, you're a legislator. I think you could put that bill in. And sometimes you can put a bill in, and it forces entities to regulate without legislation, right? And we've all done that, right? We've made a case on a bill, and all of a sudden, rather than have it go through the statute, that entity, in this case would be the Board of Elections, sets regulations, and those regulations become the norm. So I think that's a great idea. In regard to the 2 signatures, and again, I think the elections officials will speak more to this. So I was on the side of eliminating those signatures for 2 reasons. One, they were never cross-checked, and it was almost impossible to cross-check those. You didn't have to be a registered voter to sign that. You had to be a witness. 2, what happened in many cases, and usually in big city elections, so we have a couple of big cities, is notary publics were hired by campaigns to witness those things, right? And that put the notary public hired by the campaign into somebody's home. I think that's fraudulent, right? The removal of those 2 signatures or the notary basically allows somebody to privately vote their ballot. There's no interference. They don't have to get somebody to sign it. And again, and this is not new news, campaigns hired notaries, in some cases multiple notaries, to make sure that they were witnessing those, not the ballot, not the voting, but who knows, because they're in the room, right? So that pulled them out of the room. So I actually think that secured the system more than it didn't. And then we have the signature verification process that you're aware of, but we'll talk more about. So on those two issues, I can see that was the third question?
Yeah,
Oh, the
registry of motor
DMV,
vehicles.
yeah. So you can answer that on the affiliation part of it, right? You're correct in that it's an opt-out, yes.
Yeah, so there is a line for the party affiliation on the form. So it's, the DMV has what's called the L1 form, and they have the box about whether or not you want to register to vote, and they also have a party affiliation line where you're right on the line what party affiliation you want to be. If you leave that blank, whether it's at the DMV or on a voter registration form, so on the voter registration form you can pick your party, people can leave it blank, and if they leave it blank, then the boards of canvassers are instructed to input the voter as an unaffiliated voter. So anytime someone leaves it blank, you're automatically entered into the voter registration system as unaffiliated.
Can I just add one more, now that we're on that, I'm glad that was the last question. I understand that the driver permits for non-documented in the state of Rhode Island, we're supposed to be extremely different, in some manner different, very visibly different. At the end of the day, that did not happen. Does that not make it easier? I'm talking about weak points in the system.
Yeah.
Does that not make the ability for these people to show a driver's license and register to vote? Can it be picked up easily at a board of canvassers in a very busy city? And what can we do about that?
So the legislation said specifically that the licenses would be, I'm trying to get the exact wording. Identical in appearance. So the legislation never indicated that they would be different
That's not what we were
in any
told
way.
before.
So I know that Representative Morgan was there, I was there, Representative Norrie was there, and voted on that bill. And the legislation as it read said identical in appearance. Now, there were, I don't know what happened in the Senate because I wasn't there, there were questions about the barcode on the back and whether or not that would identify. That was never in the legislation. I actually think Representative Morgan pointed that out. That it never said in the legislation that the barcode would indicate something different. So they are identical. They are identical. What I can tell you is that through the DMV, there is no access point to register to vote because the documentation required through the process to get the driver privilege card would eliminate that. If you go to another way to register, which would be at your city or town hall or through our system, where you can punch in your ID number and your information, that would be flagged by the DMV to us. The DMV sends us reports that indicate non-citizen citizens. And they have a list of those people that have access driver privilege cards. So if one of those people were to go to a city or town hall and use that driver privilege card number to register to vote, or if they would access our system and use that number to access to vote, that we would know that. In fact, I can tell you since July 1st when it was implemented, no one with a driver privilege card has attempted to register to vote through the canvassing authorities or our system. And we get those reports from the DMV on non-citizen and citizen registrations. And so the list is kept. That is not a public list for good reason, but that is a list that is kept. It's a report that's run. It's something that is flagged for us if it were to occur. And you know, on the legislation itself, that was a debate. That was a debate as to whether or not there should be some sign. But if you went to vote at a polling location, you know, you'd run that driver privilege card, and it would come up voter not in file, unless someone could access that system. And I can't say that it's a perfect system, but I can tell you how it works right now, and that is that the DMV produces reports as to who has registered to vote and whether or not they are a citizen or a non-citizen.
And before we go on to the next question, I just want to follow up on your Dropbox question. So the Board of Elections does have rules and regulations in place. And so they, for example, they have to keep, every town has to keep the footage for 90 days after a particular date to save that file so that we can review it if we have to. And it does require surveillance. So every town has to have surveillance on the drop boxes in their town. There's one drop box in every town, just one, with the exception of Providence, because there's one at our office and there's one at City Hall, and then the city of Cranston has one at their City Hall and then at the Board of Elections. Every other town just has one, and it's probably at City or Town Hall. There's a couple towns that have them at other locations, but there's just one per town. But to your point, those could be strengthened, and so if you're, I think what you're saying is strengthen the pixel, for example, that you can see a face, a car, a license plate, what have you. Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Standard.
What I also did was, because I have the opportunity to be a highway director in my town, and I just go, every day I go by that box and I hit to see if it's locked, and it's locked.
Okay.
But I've also have it on the police station panel. We've got several cameras in town, DPW, Town Hall, and a couple of recreation facilities, but I also have that camera visually at the police station monitor 24/7, 7 days a week. It's right there at the police station. They can see it anytime they want.
That's
And
great.
they do keep the file, but the pixels I think definitely should be mandated to a certain degree to improve that.
Yeah, and then, and also too, the boards of canvassers during election time are required twice a day to empty those drop boxes. So when they get in the morning, they empty the drop boxes for anyone that dropped their ballot after work hours, and at the end of the day as well, they are required to empty those and bring them in and lock them until the Board of Elections comes and picks them up. So they're emptied twice a day during election time.
Since we're talking about the video footage, you mentioned rules and regulations according to those videos. Would that also mean that those have to be viewed? Like the footage gets seen no matter what?
I don't, so, and this is a Board of Election, I can find that out, and if, I'll take your contact information and get back to you. So the Board of Elections oversees these regulations, and I'm not sure there's a requirement to automatically review them, but that's a very easy thing for me to look up and get to you. And
Most towns that I asked for that question on as to whether or not I could see the footage, some of them were offering, saying $50 and then you can have it, but I had one town actually say that I would owe $4,000 to $5,000 because they had to watch the footage first. What's the point of having the security on there if nobody's watching it?
Mm-hmm.
And why would I have to pay again when our tax dollars already pay those people to do that?
Yeah, so I will get that, I'll get the regulations to you and can see, and then, so the Board of Elections can update regulations. It's a lot easier to update regulations than it is to, for example, pass a law. So the Board of Elections can do a public period where folks can come and I use the word testify, but speak on behalf of their opinions on the rules and regulations, and now is the perfect time to do it. We're coming into a really important year where we've got 3 major elections coming up, and I think it's important to get all of this stuff ready to go for 2024. So we can connect it, and I can get you that information, and then the Board of Elections can potentially bring that up at a public meeting.
And one of the things that our administration did when we came in was we asked the General Assembly to pass legislation that placed a member of our office as a liaison to the Board of Elections, who would be at every Board of Elections meeting in real time and be able to answer questions in real time from the board members. The board members are serving as board members, and they know elections, but they don't know elections like our folks do and like the locals do. So there's an opportunity for us to share this concern with them in real time. Representative Morgan had her hand up.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
This goes back to the driver privilege cards. I have talked with the director at the DMV. I'm pretty certain that he's not allowing automatic registration there. So I'm fine with that. But I did talk with the board of canvassers. Whenever somebody comes in to register, they give their social security number, their driver privilege card, or just their regular driver's card. People who are here legally, but are immigrants,
Yeah.
They're not citizens, they still can't vote.
Right.
That information then is inputted into the social security database, and it reports back that they are a real person and that they are alive, but it doesn't report back their citizenship status.
No, that report comes from DMV to us.
I understand when they come in and get the
No, but that also goes through our system of, so if somebody's registering a voter at the Coventry Town Hall, right? As that voter registration goes through and someone were to put in a